Hello! Somebody put a comment under one of my videos saying that Diane, the narcissistic mother who I've made videos about in the past, has put out another video and that it's worse than all the rest. In the past, I was very sensible about never watching her videos before I went to bed. In this case, I did. And then I went to sleep and I had nightmares that the Nazis had taken over the world. And I think you're going to see why as we look at her video.
Children are dumping their parents and it's ripping families apart. 26% are estranged from their dads, 6% from their moms, with 1 in 10 Americans separated from a parent or child. That's 33 million people. If we don't reverse this trend, where do you think we'll be in 10 years?
You can see from how the video starts that she's become a lot more confident. She's getting a lot of positive feedback from that specific little audience that feels the same way she does.
But it's not just everyday folks. Tom Cruise is estranged from his daughter Suri. Elon Musk, Cher, 50 Cent, Brad Pitt, Billy Ray Cyrus, and Rosie O'Donnell are all estranged from at least one of their kids. Is this the new normal?
Tom Cruise is estranged from Suri because he wanted to send her to a sort of cult school. It was going to be a boarding school that was for Scientologists, and she was going to go there very shortly after they divorced. You know, originally she was going to go there when she was just, I think, 7. And so Katie Holmes very cleverly managed to get Suri away from Tom Cruise before that happened. It was so difficult with the Church of Scientology. He had minimal contact with Suri after the divorce. And according to an author, Samantha Domingo, this was because of his religion, because he wasn't supposed to have much contact with somebody who wasn't a Scientologist. And it's hardly surprising that Suri doesn't want to be around her father now. And yet this is the example she picks. Brad Pitt is said to have hit his kids when he was drunk. If that really happened, is that going to help her case to talk about that? Elon Musk is getting more and more known for his narcissistic behaviour. There have been several articles written about the way he drags his little boy around, you know, in front of the media. How boring this would be for this kid. How he is using him as a tool to win people over. And how the boy's mother hates it and doesn't want this to be happening, but she can't do anything about it. Given all of this, I think it makes sense that another of Elon Musk's kids has decided to go no contact with him. In 2018, 50 Cent said he wouldn't mind if his son Marquise was hit by a bus. According to Marquise, his father had blocked him on social media for a number of years. So it's not really surprising that he's not talking to his father. But she's grabbing anyone who is going through the same thing as her to try to say it's not just me. And look at what these horrible adult children are doing to us all.
Ripping families apart.
Something positive could have come from this video. This could be a video about, okay, let's look at why adult children feel like they need to hide away from us in order to feel okay. What is it? What are we doing? What do we need to start to consider doing differently? And what can we help other parents to do differently so this doesn't happen to them? That would be such a cool video. You know, she would have so much support. She'd have so many people's sympathy. But of course, that wouldn't be Diane. That would be a completely different person.
I spent hundreds of hours exploring this issue as I healed from my own estrangement. So today, we're going to look at some of the cultural factors, including the plight of the parent and solutions for going forward.
The plight of the parent is funny, isn't it? She could write a book called The Plight of the Parent. Maybe she could think of another P. The plight of the pissed off parent. It could be the PPP. And they could become friends with the KKK because she seems to have a lot in common with them.
Toxic parent hashtags show up over 6 billion times on social media. The biggest subreddits for estranged adult children number 72,000, and there are dozens of Facebook groups for estranged parents, the largest numbering almost 10,000. When I shared my estrangement story on YouTube, I got an astounding 30,000 comments, many from parents experiencing the same heartbreak, but a ton came from angry adult children labeling, judging, and diagnosing me with mental disorders. Is this what they teach in school these days?
It feels like she wants us to know that she hasn't taken it personally. And a lot of this video seems to be aimed at the people who don't agree with her, just like her other videos have been.
Is this what they teach in school these days? Or did they learn this on social media?
But what she seems to be trying to get across is if they learnt to think of her as a narcissist by the information around on social media, then that means that they're wrong about her being a narcissist. So she's trying to undermine social media as a source of information, even though she has her social media channel that is supposedly informing people.
Ditching your parents is easier than working out your interpersonal issues, but is this the kind of America we want to live in, where parents are dumped when they become inconvenient?
So she says ditching your parents is easier than trying to work things out with them, but she's missing the point. People generally go no contact as a last resort because they're not being heard, because that parent isn't trying to understand them, isn't taking them seriously. And so there's nothing else they can do. Being around that person is just too upsetting. And in fact, most people in her daughter's position are in denial for a long time and think that there must be a way to work things out with their parent. And so it's only when they've hit their head against the wall so many times that they finally realise their parent is not open to working anything out. Diane, with every video, shows how much contempt she has for younger people, with all of her prejudices, seems to be this kind of person. And so how could one work anything out with her? You know, it's kind of like she thought, well, when I tried to be logical, because it's obviously not a strength of hers, it didn't work. So I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to speak from the heart, you know, and therefore she doesn't have any arguments that mean anything. Yes, darling. She just wanted to say that. Now she's cleaning herself.
America we want to live in? What's dividing American families? When I asked estranged parents on my channel what caused their estrangement, 59% said interpersonal problems. Other common causes include abuse and neglect, corrosive behaviors, divorce and custody disputes, substance abuse, mental health issues, different values and lifestyles, financial and legal conflicts, lack of communication. No doubt, families are messy. In the past, people seem to work out their differences without jettisoning their loved ones entirely. But now what do? As this commenter suggests, they turn to the therapy industrial complex. 2 out of 5.
So by calling therapy an industrial complex, she's trying to say therapy is all about making money, and she's put it into that category so that whatever she now says about therapy, we're already supposed to think it's a very bad thing.
2 out of 5 Gen Zers surveyed go to regular therapy. These younger generations are the most depressed and anxious in history, yet they're also the most therapized. Is this really working? Of course, specific therapies for certain situations can be life-changing, but ongoing talk therapy that goes nowhere? Who benefits? 1 in 4 millennials plans to stay in therapy forever. Forever!
If 1 in 4 millennials thinks that they should stay in therapy forever, then that says a lot about the state of their mental health, doesn't it? It means that they can't imagine they're ever going to feel okay. It's such a shame that, you know, that it's almost a coincidence that she happens to bring up something that could be worth talking about, because she doesn't talk about it in any kind of useful way. That's serious that they feel that way. But how is that the fault of therapy? My question would be, what happened to them when they were younger? What happened as their brains were developing? And what's happening now in their lives that makes them feel like they're never going to be able to properly cope with life. You know, they're always going to need to have that shoulder to lean on. Is it because they don't have any good friends? Is it because so many people are just kind of social media mates and they don't really spend much time in front of each other, you know, socializing? Is it because that generation are apparently the loneliest that they have been because of social media? I'm sure that all of that doesn't help. Maybe that therapist that they're seeing is the person that they can go to talk, because they don't feel like they have anyone in their lives. There are so many interesting possibilities that really could be worth talking about. And finally, there's the possibility that some of these people are seeing a therapist who encourages them to feel like they will never be able to feel okay independently, that they'll never be able to build up their own support around themselves, that they're always going to need this person. And I think that's probably what Diane's getting at. And it's a shame she doesn't say it if she is getting at it, because that is, again, an interesting talking point. Therapy that goes on for decades isn't a good idea. And there are therapists out there who will take your money and who will just keep seeing you and not really bother about whether you're making improvements, whether there's progress. And that's not great. I mean, that's no good. If you're in a situation like that, you're probably seeing the wrong therapist. And that could be a video out there to alert people who are in therapy or people who are looking for therapy. That could be a really useful talking point. That's not going to be the majority of therapists. That's going to be a small minority. But it's still important to talk about. But of course, Diane is just trying to use this as the reason as to why all of these people are feeling so desperate. It's all because every single one of these 2/3 of the people she's talking about has a therapist who isn't interested in whether they make progress, and they're just seeing them forever and telling them that they're always going to need help. How likely is that? I mean, how likely is that? That this is what's going on with 2/3 of these people. I had to watch this part of Diane's video several times before I could grasp what I think she's trying to say, because it's so off the wall. I think she's saying that these 2/3 of young adults are the most depressed because they have the most therapy. Let's listen to what she says again and look out for this viewpoint.
Apparently, therapy is the answer to everything. Discipline problem at home? Send them to therapy. Problem at school? Therapize them on site. These younger generations are the most depressed and anxious in history. Yet they're also the most therapized. Is this really working? Of course, specific therapies for certain situations can be life-changing. But ongoing talk therapy that goes nowhere? Who benefits?
I can only imagine that she's come to this conclusion because she's imagining her daughter is under the influence of this crazy therapist and she's feeling too sorry for herself. And that makes sense if you think about how narcissistic Diane appears to be.
But ongoing talk therapy that goes nowhere? Who benefits?
To a narcissist, somebody's spending that time on themselves every week and looking at their past trauma and working to resolve it is somebody who's feeling too sorry for themselves. It's somebody who's paying too much attention to themselves. I think they'd be both projecting because they'd imagine that that's what they would do in therapy. And on top of projecting, I think there's an element of jealousy that all of the attention is on them and not on the narcissist. It's amazing what she's prepared to believe in order to make sure that this has nothing to do with her, that both of her daughters either don't talk to her at all or are barely in contact because her other daughter joined a monastery and she barely sees her mum.
1 in 3 consider their therapist their friend. Aww. 1 in 3 consider their therapist their friend. Aww. And who's turning out all these
Isn't that creepy? It really shows no empathy. She's being sarcastic about these people who are the same age as her daughter and who need mental health services.
1 in 3 consider their therapist their friend. Aww. And who's turning out all these therapists for your kids? Why, that would be the University Industrial Complex. These are the colleges that charge you $200,000 for 4 years of diversity, equity, and inclusion, where they confirm that your gender is anything you want it to be, that others must celebrate your personal view of self. And if they don't, they're transphobes.
And of course, she obviously is a transphobe because of what she's just said and shown us there. She's telling us, I think this is the beginning of why I had a dream that the Nazis were in power, because I saw this last night. As soon as she starts talking about university, she just says negative things about it. Universities just want to make money out of people. They're bad. They have bad intentions, just the same as therapists do. And then as proof of that, she shows someone who's trans, and then she jokes about the idea of her being transphobic when it's very evident that she is.
XY chromosomes? Pfft, that's old school. UCLA Medical School has a bit of a history admitting underqualified racial minorities. According to faculty members, they say the school has prioritized diversity over merit. One professor said that a student in the operating room could not identify a major artery when asked, then berated the professor for putting her on the spot. Is that who you want doing your open heart surgery?
So this is the real sort of Nazi stuff. Black students or students of other races they're gonna kill you if they ever become surgeons and you get surgery with them. Universities putting diversity first means that none of these kids know what they're doing. And so look how we're all threatened by this. We're all threatened by these people of other races who don't know what they're doing. This is very typical of the Nazi period, because it was all about showing white people how they are victims of people of other races. Specifically Jews, but also other races. That's exactly what's happening here. Somebody getting surgery is completely helpless, aren't they? You can't get more helpless than that. You're being cut open, you're unconscious, anything could happen to you. So that's a great emotive example for her to use to say, look at how we're at the mercy of these terrible students from all over the place who don't know anything and who have a really bad attitude because this guy berated his professor. Generalizing based on one person is typical of a racist.
Is that who you want doing your open heart surgery?
And that professor probably was bullying the guy anyway, because he's gone and apparently written a racist article about him. If only every surgeon was white, we'd be okay. But it can't be guaranteed anymore, and it's all because of these terrible universities.
Meritocracy is out the window as colleges ditch standardized testing for screening students. Instead, they look to skin color as a primary indicator of who's in and who's out.
Have they said they're putting diversity first? If they have said that, it would be very surprising. Maybe if somebody hasn't done quite so well as somebody who's white, they're still going to consider their applications because they don't want only white students passing through the university. And they're going to understand that some people haven't had the same good luck in their school system as others. And so they might have been let down by that system, but they believe that they're going to be able to thrive at university. There could be lots of things going on, but she is just focusing on one tiny little thought and then massively exaggerating it to say that all these people of different colours from different ethnic backgrounds are dangerous.
Instead, they look to skin color as a primary indicator of who's in and who's out. Can you read, write, do math? Who cares? What's your ancestry? Ooh, bonus points if they were oppressed.
And it's the confidence with which she says all of this that shows, well, I guess in my opinion, how brainwashed she is, but also it shows arrogance. You know, it shows she's absolutely sure of things that aren't rational. It shows that she doesn't tend to think rationally. She doesn't place importance on that. She just goes with her emotions. And then she expects that everybody should respect that. And if they don't, there's something really wrong with them. She points the finger. Dropping standardized testing sounds like a really good thing. A lot of standardized testing doesn't show what it's supposed to show. So for instance, with an IQ test, that doesn't show how intelligent a person is as a whole. It just shows one kind of intelligence. And so they can distort how somebody is seen. So universities that are no longer doing standardized tests, they sound like they might be being more open-minded, might be looking at the research and really trying to understand what people are capable of. And yet she's turned that, and the fact that they now want more students from minority groups, both of those are really good things, and she's turned them into something really terrible that again makes white people into victims. And she's suggesting that universities don't care if students can't read or write as long as they're black or as long as they're from a minority ethnic group. And that's very obviously not going to be the case. You know, to get into university, you obviously will have to read and write and so on. But she's really exaggerating this to prove her point that white people are being terribly exploited by all of these people who she herself has agreed have been oppressed. Most people who are racist are not racist because they see a threatened minority group and that makes them angry. They're usually racist because they perceive this group to be threatening them. They perceive themselves as victims of these minority groups. And so the best way to make somebody into a racist is to go on and on about how they are victims and they're helpless and they're being taken advantage of. And that's what she's doing, and that's what she would have presumably done with her 2 children, brainwashed them with evil, disgusting sentiments. Gosh, it just makes me think that that poor girl who's in a monastery at the moment, it makes me hope that she does understand, if not now, in the future, that if she doesn't want to live in a monastery, she doesn't have to in order to not be in contact with her mum, you know, because I imagine that it's guilt that's making her think she does. I might be wrong. She might be really suited to that life. She might love it, but it seems to me like it's probably not a coincidence that she's there when her sister has gone completely no contact. And given what her mother is obviously like, she's even had the gall to show these clips of people of different colours.
UCLA Medical School has a bit of a history admitting underqualified racial minorities. According to faculty members, they say the school has prioritized diversity over merit. These are the universities churning out therapists to help your kids through life, to the point where the kids become dependent on these third parties who are telling your kids what? That your child is struggling with toxic masculinity and might be better off female? That your white privilege gives you an unfair advantage and therefore you must kowtow to all of the races? That your parents are...
Wow. She's saying that therapists are going to say to you, your daughter should change sexes. How is it ever going to be a therapist's job to suggest this to somebody? And then she's saying, but then worse still, she's saying that a therapist is going to tell your child that they need to be suppressed by people of other races. I mean, how paranoid is that? A therapist is not going to say, this is how you should behave with people of other races. Why would they say that? If the person is blatantly, openly racist, they might say, this is offensive. You know, it's going to offend other people if you say that to them. It offends me. They might be honest and open in that way. She misunderstands what therapists do.
That your parents are clearly toxic for causing you stress, so you should just cut them off. But it's not just therapists who are suggesting that you estrange yourself from family.
And she's saying again that therapists are telling people to cut their parents off. It's not something I've ever heard of. It's certainly not something I would ever dream of doing. You don't tell somebody you should cut so-and-so off out of your life, because it's not your job to do that. Your job is to support somebody and help them to make progress in the ways in which they want to make progress. You don't act like a dictator. And I think because she does, that she can't imagine that everybody else doesn't as well. And I think also that it's so intolerable for her to imagine that her daughter's decision to go no contact actually came from her and that she wasn't told to do it.
The problem is when people hide behind keyboards, it's so much easier to get angry, overreact, and say things to a person that you would never say to them in real life. People get upset, someone throws gas on the fire, everyone's outraged, soon the whole forest is burning, and the algorithms feed on it. Just like that one episode of Star Trek.
Appears to be strengthened by mental radiations of hostility.
This is how she explains people's reactions to her videos. It's just because of the algorithm, it's just because people are saying what they don't mean. And maybe by giving us her thought process, she's hoping for some validation about this.
Negative headlines get more clicks. Negative content gets more engagement.
And Black Lives Matter is an example of negative headlines.
Negative headlines get more clicks.
So Black Lives Matter gets more clicks, and it's apparently a bad thing, is it? That Black lives should matter, that police should treat black people in the same way as they treat white people. She doesn't try to hide this racism, and I think it's actually, I think it's probably a good thing that she's put this video out, because I think a lot of her followers who tried to ignore her racism before are really, it's kind of impossible now not to see it. And hopefully those people will have actually looked for other answers as to why their children have gone no contact.
Negativity keeps people on platforms for longer, which lets them serve more ads, which is how they make money. Doling out dopamine like slot machines. Social media platforms hack the human psyche to keep your eyeballs angry and engaged for hours on end.
And yet it's her that's really angry. It's her that's hating others. She's the one expressing all of that. This video is the same as all the others. It's blaming social media, universities and therapists again for why children go no contact when they grow up. And there's nothing else going on apart from more antisocial beliefs that are coming up. And so she's always projecting onto other people, and she's always seeing herself as a victim. She's not seeing just how aggressive and nasty she's being in her videos. She's convinced that her and all the other nasty parents out there are victims themselves.
It exists on the hate of others.
Where everyone assumes, projects, judges, condemns, often on the tiniest bit of information where outrage is the norm.
And that's exactly what she's just done on the tiniest bit of information. And I've looked at examples of that in this video. But she can only project, and yet she's saying to us that these terrible young people are doing the projecting. So it's amazing how deeply denial can run, isn't it? I'm going to look at a series of exchanges I had with a troll in another video where you see the same thing is happening, and this is one of her fans, But what's interesting, I think, is just how these people, they're not even playing the victim. They really do 100% believe they are the victim. And that's what's so problematic, because it means that in their minds, they're just protecting themselves. There are a lot of abusers out there who perceive themselves as just standing up for themselves and protecting themselves from being abused. Believing that means that they can believe that they're good people, that they're at the mercy of bad, unfair people, and that they just have to keep behaving in the same way that they're behaving. And so nothing ever changes. So it's really important that if you're at the other end of this kind of behavior, that you are able to separate yourself from what someone else is projecting onto you, that you're able to acknowledge your own experience and make your own decisions about who you are. People can be this wrong about you. You know, it can go to this extent, the projection, to the extent that they're convinced you're the one projecting.
Where everyone assumes, projects, judges.
And so you have to be able to reject their perception of you when it isn't right. As I'm describing how you need to be able to separate yourself from other people's views of you, I'm thinking about the exercises that I've created to help people with this. So if this is something you struggle with, then get in touch with me, you know, and have a look at my course. You might be interested in it. And you can email me at contact@liveabusefree.com.
I think they like to tease you, don't they? They like to tease you. Is that a yawn? Looks like a yawn. Well, it's working. You teased them very well, didn't you? Yes, they really want to meet you, don't they? Yeah, you're very clever. You are a clever pair, aren't you? Very pretty too. Very pretty pair of parrots, aren't you? Keeping yourselves lovely. Keeping yourselves immaculate, aren't you? Yes, you're welcome here anytime. Yeah, you can come back. I should leave out some honey water for you, shouldn't I? Look at those beautiful black feet. They're lovely, aren't they? Yeah. I just can't believe how lovely and beautiful you are. Just so pretty. Yes, you are. Very pretty. You like to talk? I think you really like to talk. Are you coming here? Are you going to come even closer? Beautiful wing, absolutely stunning. Very, very pretty. Oh, very good at cleaning. Are you going to go again? Are you going to be off? Where are you going to go to next? Oh, bye. That was exciting, wasn't it? Where did they go?